I'm David Feeney, and I'm here to talk to you about my book, My Military Years. In the fall of 1968, I was drafted into the United States Army for 2 years. My first date to report was 25 February 1969. I was going to volunteer to be a Marine, and I think I liked the uniform. So the largest snowstorm ever to hit Boston in history, hit Boston, and that changed everything, and I ended up going to basic training in the United States Army at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I did very well in basic training. I was in the #1 company in the battalion. My platoon was the #1 platoon, and I was the best shot on the entire post. Out of all the brigades and battalions and thousands of men, I was #1. I got 13 in a row dead center at 300 meters. That got me some sort of a commendation and salute from a colonel, and off to advanced infantry training. Did very well again in advanced infantry training, and I was promoted and made squad leader. On a Saturday night, Jack Pappas and I decided to sneak off post, which was easy to do, and see a movie. We get caught, and we get thrown in the slammer, and we had to wait for somebody from a company officer to come pick us up. While we're waiting, Jack was really nervous, and he was like, they're going to throw us in the stockade, and I said, no, I don't think they're going to do that. And then I explained to him, I said, you know, basic training graduation, I said, we get our orders and we go to the next place. I said, so what I did was when they went to the parade ground, as they got on the trucks, I hid in the barracks. They went to the parade ground, I went down to the post library, and I read the rules and regulations that the officers kept in the reference section there. It was the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It wasn't just for the officers, but as someone once said, I've never seen an enlisted man in this section reading these books. So I browsed through them to see what I would need, and I spent a lot of time. I finally realized as I was going through there that a wise person could work the system. There were loopholes that if you were in a bad situation, that you could possibly get yourself out of this bad situation if you knew these rules and regulations, and you could work them. So exactly what I predicted was going to happen happened. They gave us an Article 15, and they took my stripe and some pay and gave us extra duty. The last night of extra duty was the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, and the guys came over to me at supper and they said, hey Feeney, you got a pass. You can go home for the weekend, 3-day weekend, blah, blah. So I went, got the pass, and they warned me. They said, you have to be back here by 11:59 p.m. on Monday, not 12:01 on Tuesday. You have to be back before midnight. So I hopped on a plane on Monday and made it as far as Washington, D.C. Got stuck in D.C. and realized I'm not going to make it back. The second offense is 30 days in the stockade. So now, to me, I only had one option. All right, going down to South Carolina was not an option. Spending 30 days in the stockade and staying down there and finishing my training with this brute. So I decided to stay until, according to the rules, he had to do something. And he had to do it after 30 days. And he did not do that after 30 days, so I waited. He did it on the 88th day, and I finally went back. I figured I was going to turn myself in at Fort Dix, and because it's a training fort, I could stay there and finish my training there, and Fort Dix is a 4-hour bus ride home, and everything would be fine. That didn't happen. What happened was, I have a skill, and they decided to use this skill. And they used me, and I went from one job to the next job, to the next job, more and more power as I went on the way up. And my friends and people in the Army at the time couldn't believe it. My friends said, you're like Zorro. They said, you're like Zorro, man. They said, you go in the Army, you're like Don Diego, and then when you're outside, you're like Zorro. And so I was proud of that, actually, when they said that. I don't want to ruin everything for you, but I did many, many, many things, and I took a lot of risks, and in the end, I believe I saved a lot of lives by doing what I did. Once again, it's my military years by David Feeney. Thanks a lot.